It's time for the Phil Ferguson Show.
This is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to the Phil Ferguson Show, coming from Orlando, Florida, at least the Orlando area, in our Florida house. Glad to be here, and we have just survived our second hurricane, although this one was much smaller, much less power, about similar winds for us here in Orlando, but a lot less damage to Florida, but of course, people on the southeast side may not think that compared to the previous one that hit the west, but since I'm in the middle, I get them both. So that's nice. And only about 5 inches of rain, I think, 4 or 5 inches of rain, a couple days of wind, and I think today will be the third day of pretty much rain all day, off and on, but every day, every hour. So looking forward to a little more sunshine and the skies clearing up. Later in the show, we are going to talk to Kenny Biddle. He was a ghost hunter, now turned into a skeptic. And he explains how ghost hunters do their thing, why they do their thing, what equipment they use or use incorrectly, more importantly. So we're going to have that coming up. And of course, I have a segment with a couple of little rants, one with a phishing email and the other one, I'll just let you hear it when you get there. It just kind of struck me as odd, funny, ranty. I don't know. So hopefully you enjoy all that. Real quick, a couple of news items that are time sensitive. Every once in a while, I have something that needs to be heard within a day or two, and otherwise it's out of date. But this is the 10th of November in 2022, and I'm recording this midday, so it might change, but the U.S. stock market is up about 4 to 5% in just one day on today. And the question, of course, people always ask is why? And generally, when people tell you why, they're just making shit up, and that might even include me. But I think it's pretty clear a couple of things that are driving it in this specific situation. Election results. It was not a red wave. It was not a blue wave. It's a mixed wave. Biden remains the president. He's a Democrat. It looks like, while it's uncertain, the House will probably be the Senate will be 50-50, which means the tie goes to the vice president, meaning the Democrats will likely keep the Senate. If it doesn't work out that way, I think there's only really one seat that's going to be up for serious consideration. If it's 51 Republicans and 49 Democrats, well, then the Senate would be Republican. But if they have only one defector, then they would lose the vote on something. So it's still very tight either way. And this creates a situation of, nothing's going to get done. And the funny thing is, generally speaking, business, the stock markets, like when nothing gets done, when nothing changes because the rules don't change, the regulations don't change, the laws don't change, and companies know the game and they can optimize and do what they need to do to make the most money, which may or may not be a good system that we have, but that's the reality of the situation. Companies don't like change. The other big thing, which might be a bit of a change, thankfully, and very positive for most people, and definitely good for business, is that there is a chance now we're turning the corner on inflation. And I think that may have driven the market today as much as the political gridlock. But the inflation numbers are still elevated, but they definitely didn't go up. They went down, and they went down more than expected. And so what this means is that at some point, the Fed will either slow down or stop increasing interest rates. The fantasy is, of course, that they can nip interest rates in the bud before the economy gets too soft and we get a recession or, a serious recession. Generally, the dream is for what's called a soft landing, where maybe economic growth slows down, gets really close to zero. Maybe the unemployment percentage goes up a little bit. Maybe the number of people getting laid off or losing their jobs goes up a little bit, but not bad, not horrible. So we don't want to go from 4% to 8% or 10% unemployment, because that means tens of millions of people lose their jobs or don't have jobs, and they don't have money to buy things. And then businesses suffer and profits go down and all those things. So we're now hoping for, I'm optimistic of, either a soft landing or a mild recession, depending on how you define it. We already had one. But the nice thing, and what the market is reacting to, is that the U.S. stock market, depending on when you're measuring it from, a year ago or the beginning of 2022, the market has gone down 20, 23, 25% in anticipation of the economy doing poorly or suffering from the rate increases. So far, it hasn't done that. If it continues to work out okay and it just gets squishy or soft, but not really bad, then there's no reason for the stock market to be down as much as it is, secondo me, in my opinion. So in my opinion, there's nothing to drive the market further down. Not actually a prediction, by the way, because it could go down or it could go up. And keep in mind, one of the foundational philosophies of the Polaris plan, or the ideas that I talk about in investing, is that you're investing for the long run. And I specifically advise against trying to time the market, and don't make any changes within a day, within a week, within a month. Maybe rebalancing once a year. If things change a lot, okay, twice a year if you really want to. If you've got a multi-million-dollar portfolio, 3 times a year, I guess you could do that and convince me that it has value. But if you overdo it, you actually lose some of the benefit of these adjustments. So you don't want to do it too often. And right now, things are in a point where they might possibly change. And the market might go up, might go down more. We don't know. That's why, again, long term. I'm repeating myself. So let's just wrap up the intro section. Yeah, that's right. Intro section. Let's say introspection. The introductory, the opening segment, the part of the podcast. We're going to have a little break here and then get into the meat and potatoes.
I like how you call homosexuality an abomination.
I don't say homosexuality is an abomination, Mr. President. The Bible does.
Yes, it does. Leviticus
18:22.
chapter and verse. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions while I had you here. I'm interested in selling my youngest daughter into slavery, as sanctioned in Exodus 21:7. She's a Georgetown sophomore, speaks fluent Italian, always cleared the table when it was her turn. What would a good price for her be? While thinking about that, can I ask another? My chief of staff, Leo McGarry, insists on working on the Sabbath. Exodus 35:2 clearly says he should be put to death. Am I morally obligated to kill him myself, or is it okay to call the police? Here's one that's really important, because we've got a lot of sports fans in this town. Touching the skin of a dead pig makes one unclean, Leviticus 11:7. If they promise to wear gloves, can the Washington Redskins still play football? Can Notre Dame? Can West Point? Does the whole town really have to be together to stone my brother John for planting different crops side by side? Can I burn my mother in a small family gathering for wearing garments made from 2 different threads? Think about those questions, would you? One last thing. While you may be mistaking this for your monthly meeting of the ignorant tight-ass club, in this building when the president stands, nobody sits.
The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any actions.
You're listening to The Bill Ferguson Show.
I'm going to take a moment or two of your time to rant about a couple of things, just things that have come up that are odd or bother me. Now, one is related to me and Polaris, and I've been talking about recent performance numbers, and I've had a lot of people contact me that have portfolios that have done a lot worse than what they think they should have done, and or a lot worse than what I'm talking about. Had someone present me a portfolio that was down 25 to 30% when the total stock market was down 20. And their portfolio was broadly diversified in international and a whole lot of bonds. Well, the problem is that their small cap stocks, their mid cap stock funds lost 30, 40%, and their bonds lost 15 to 20%, where I was playing it safe with short-term and conservative bonds where we only lost 7 or 8 or maybe 10%. So, a lot of things go into that, and that's fine. It happens. Investing is very, very hard, and I don't always get it right. So I'm not trying to do that. But in relationship to this, I had someone contact me that we had talked over a year and a half ago maybe, and they were a prospective new client for Phil, for Polaris Financial Planning. We talked a time or two, and then they didn't contact me anymore. No big deal. They recently contacted me to show me the portfolio that they have with a different advisor, where they've lost almost 40% in the last year and a quarter. And they were very upset. And the thing is that they weren't really upset that the other advisor didn't help them avoid some of the problems and actually created some of the problems. They were upset, and I can't even believe I can say this out loud. They were upset that I didn't try harder to get them to hire me. And I don't know, a little part of my brain just went click and snapped. And I don't know, because I've done this long enough, because I apparently do it well enough, I generally don't need to convince anybody to hire me. My big problem is it's just me, and I don't want to fuck around with employees and an office and coworkers and all that shit, because I've done that in the past. It has problems. It has complications. I make enough by myself that I'm happy. So I don't want to break it. I don't want to try making even more money and dealing with unemployment and employment and hiring and firing and all the fuckery that comes along with having employees. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. But the idea that someone was upset that I wasn't salesy enough because the other advisor that they hired kept calling them back and showing more interest in having them as a client. And I think that was probably true, that the other person did make more effort. The other person did try harder and call more often and convince this prospective investor, which I can't, of course, tell you names or anything, but it just struck me as odd that their beef was that I wasn't trying hard enough to convince them to hire me. So I don't know. The other thing, not really related at all, but just kind of goes into this theme that I've had lately is, why does everything have to be a trick? Why does everything have to be a game? And so I got this email, which I think I talked previously about how I got an email from the SEC that was weird. It turns out it actually was from the SEC. Oh, and the funny thing, I responded to them, and then they responded back to me via email. And on the inbound email from me into the SEC added a little note that says, caution, I'm paraphrasing, caution, this is an inbound email from a source outside of the organization. Do not click on any links or attachments if you weren't expecting this email or it's from an unknown source. Really found fucking advice, honestly. But what cracks me up is they know that this is a problem, but yet this whole thing started with them sending me an email without announcement, without me expecting it, with a button that went to a link. And part of this process, when I responded, they, of course, realized, hey, this is not something you want to click on, but yet they sent me an email with something that I'm told to click on. Anyway, I digress. So I got a new email from, quote unquote, Wells Fargo. And it says, we've updated some changes on your profile. All right, that's weird. We've updated our database servers on 11/3/2022. To complete this update, you'll need to confirm your info and email address using the link below. And then there's another sentence that says, with the lowercase f, for your security. For my security, what? Okay. If you are an online banking customer, go to, and then it gives what looks like a link to Wells Fargo. But of course, hopefully you all know, and if you don't, maybe I can help somebody out here. On a computer, you hover over this link, and at the bottom of the screen, if you have a halfway decent browser, it will show you where it goes to. And it's an endless list of letters and numbers, and it doesn't go to Wells Fargo at all. Of course it doesn't. And then below that it says, sign on to your online account, email address authentication, type your card info. What? So thankfully it's poorly written, but if someone had a better command of the English language and wrote this up, it could kind of sort of look like a real email. There's some other links that, well, things that look like links that don't go anywhere. And there's even an unsubscribe button that you should never, ever hit unless you know exactly where it's going, because all you've done is confirm to them that you are a legitimate email address. So anyway, that's some ranty stuff. Let's take a break and then get on to the actual real parts of the show. The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any actions.
Hey, poor! You don't have to be poor anymore! Jesus is here!
Welcome back, everybody. I am now talking to Kenny Biddle. It is Kenny, right? Or should I call you Kenneth or Ken or what? What do you?
Fine.
Kenny's good.
Yes.
And you are a former ghost hunter. Is that fair to say?
That is fair. Yes.
And what do you do now?
Now I am the chief investigator for the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, and I write for Skeptical Inquirer magazine. I solve mysteries.
And that sounds like actually a pretty fun job. You mean you get paid?
I get paid. This is my dream job. I get paid to investigate weird shit. That's the best description I can give you.
That is pretty cool. Now, you have a background, if I recall correctly, from your presentation a week or two ago. You used to do ghost hunting yourself, and you would go out with teams and go to antique places and old houses and graveyards and the whole shebang. And you found many ghosts, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, we're going to use air quotes when we say ghost here, but yeah, I found a lot of things that I believed at the time were ghosts, and other things. You know, you can get into like demons and spirits and apparitions and all that stuff. But yes, basically, I was finding things I thought were ghosts. And
you were using, I'm assuming, cutting edge equipment to do this, right?
Cutting edge, yes. That's a. I guess you can put it that way. You know, to ghost hunters, and myself at the time, it was you think, oh, we have this high tech equipment because it lights up, it uses a lot of batteries, and it beeps, it makes noises, and all kinds of stuff like that. So this is cutting edge stuff. You know, this isn't your old school use candlesticks and maybe baby powder and stuff like that. This is high tech stuff. We were using EMF meters and stuff. So yeah,
you're talking like Ghostbuster level equipment, right? The original series.
Yeah, I mean it's not. I mean when you talk about ghost Ghostbusters. I mean, and
well,
we're talking about the original guys.
Yeah. You weren't capturing, but I mean, like they have the little device that goes, woo, and the little arms come out and lights blink.
Right. The equivalent to that for ghost hunters is the EMF meter.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were using that kind of stuff. I mean, we didn't have particle throwers. I mean, I would loved one.
Yeah.
It would have been cool, but no, we didn't have that much. But yeah, we did good.
And I'm pretty sure most of my listeners will understand EMF, but you threw out a TLA, a 3-letter acronym. What the hell is EMF?
Electromagnetic field, and that's what the meters. The meters are meant to measure the strength of that electromagnetic field, not necessarily the frequency. So you have frequencies, and I mean we can get into like the nitty-gritty details. I mean everything that's powered gives off an EM field.
I was just thinking if you walked by a wall that had a electric wire going to a light switch, that you might actually be able to detect that if there's electricity going through it.
Absolutely.
And so now there's a ghost in the other room. On the other side of the wall.
Absolutely. Okay. There's been several TV shows, and I won't mention which ones, but there's been TV shows where the scene is set up, and you're watching somebody holding an EMF meter, and they're like, "Wow, this is going off," and the needle's bouncing around, and the lights are going off, and then the camera goes wide, and you notice that 2 feet from them there's a light switch.
Yeah.
They're literally right next to a light switch that's on.
Yeah.
And I'm screaming at the TV like a sports fan at during the game, like screaming like, "Are you kidding me? Are you not paying attention?"
Well, I mean, people see what they want to see. So you're now not convinced that ghosts are real. So what happened to you? Who hurt you?
So many people, Phil. So basically, there's a turning point where my way of thinking really changed.
Yeah.
And I was in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. There was a ghost conference going on, and I mean, there was hundreds of ghost hunters there.
Yeah.
And, I thought this was an opportunity to learn, how these more famous ghost hunters were doing their things and all that. But honestly, I mean, I didn't learn anything from the conference, not a damn thing. But afterwards, at night, we went out to the battlefields because that's what ghost hunters do.
Yeah.
They go to Gettysburg, they go to battlefields because, so many people died. And obviously their ghosts are left behind.
I mean, if I'm a ghost, if I could choose anywhere to hang out, it's going to be a damp, wet battlefield outside of Gettysburg. I mean,
right.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? That's so much better than like a beach in Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. So we went out there and we had heard from a park ranger that there was this little spot next to what's called the wheat field.
Yeah.
And the wheat field it saw a lot of battle July 2nd of the battle. And so right next to it, there's this patch of woods that was used as a field hospital. And according to the park ranger that we talked to, this was a section that was avoided by all the other park rangers. Nobody wanted to go there because it was so scary, had so much ghostly activity that they just avoided it.
Wow, that sounds like where you want to go.
I know. That's the golden ticket for a ghost hunter. And as far as we knew, nobody else knew about it. So that's even better because back, now we're talking like the late 90s, early 2000s when I was a ghost hunter, ghost hunters were very territorial. We didn't share. We didn't tell anyone else our secret spots. We didn't share that kind of information because we were just.
Is that like your favorite spot in the creek where you can catch fish?
Yeah, yes.
I guess. I don't do fishing, so I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got there that night and we set up inside this little clearing and nothing was going on.
Yeah.
We've been there about an hour. And then coming down the road, I see 3 cars because I can see across the wheat field. The wheat field is wide open.
Yeah.
There is no wheat in it at the time.
Sure.
So I can see clear across the field. Here comes 3 cars. They come down the road and they park at a little like tourist spot halfway down the field. And I'm watching them and I see about a dozen people get out and they're getting rowdy. I see flashlights. I see laser pointers and the laser pointers are attached to infrared temperature guns. that ghost hunters love to use because, ghosts are apparently a different temperature than us. And
yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
And it has a laser pointer, so why wouldn't you want one?
I think I'd be tripping out if I see a laser pointer at night in the field, because I'm thinking it's attached to a fucking rifle.
Yes. So yeah, I see them, and this group comes out into the wheat field. They start moving into the middle of the field, which is no big deal. We're watching them, and then they make a turn and they start coming right towards us. Now I'm starting to panic because as a ghost hunter, this is my secret spot. I don't want them to find us in here, because then if they do, they're going to ask questions. They're going to want to stay here with us, and it's going to ruin it for us, because we're thinking like, this is, stay away. This is our place.
Yeah.
So they get closer and closer, and I'm getting angry because I'm thinking we're losing the spot. We're going to lose it. And finally, I lost my temper, and I walk out of the clearing, walk out of the woods, just a few feet out of the wood line, the edge of the wood line, and I start screaming at them to shut up, go away. And I don't remember exactly what I said because I was just mad. So I'm just screaming at them to get away. And they all stop.
Did you have a clown costume on at this time?
I did not.
Okay.
Although I did have the standard ghost hunting photographer's vest that ghost hunters love to wear, because it has a lot of pockets where you keep your batteries and your film, because we were still using film at the time.
I've heard of that.
Oh, and all your gadgets are in all these pockets. So I'm pretty bulked up, and not in like a muscle way, but just packed with equipment. And I'm screaming at them. They all stop. They stop dead. And a few seconds later, they turn around and rush back to their cars. They get in, speed away. And that's it. And I go back into the woods thinking, oh,
problem
great.
solved.
Yep, I'm good. So I come down the next morning. We go back to the conference, and we're in the lobby. We're talking to other ghost hunters here, and I start hearing about this apparition sighting. People saw an apparition last night, and it was in the battlefields. So I get excited because I'm a ghost hunter. This is what we're here for.
Now you want to know where they were.
Right.
But then you find out.
I mean, you probably know where this story is going.
I've heard it, but the listeners would love to find out.
Okay. So I start asking questions like, oh, where were you guys? What happened? And we're told, oh, that they were in the wheat field. It was a group of people. They were in the wheat field. And I was like, oh, great. I'm thinking I was there. I can't believe I missed it. What time were you there? And it's about like 7:30 at night. And so I'm like, well, I was already there. Where was this? And then I hear, oh, it was on the side of the wheat field. It was by a bunch of woods. And I was like, whoa, okay, I was right there. How could I have missed this? And that's my mentality at the time. I wasn't thinking through. I was thinking, like, how did I miss this? And finally I got the last details about how the apparition of a soldier appeared out of the woods, yelled at the group, told them to go away, and scared the hell out of them and ran away. And that's when the metaphorical light bulb lit up over my head, and I was like, that was me. That you saw me.
Yeah, that's not going to work, is it?
Yeah, that was mind-blowing to me, because I kept giving them details. They refused. They absolutely refused to believe me. And even though I told them, like, I saw you guys. You came in 3 cars. You had flashlights. You have laser pointers on your temperature guns. You had this. I gave them, like, phrases that they had said. And they still absolutely refused to believe that it was me. They knew what they saw.
Right.
And that's good enough. And they were a professional ghost hunting group. I don't know what that means, but that's what they were. So they pretty much dismissed me and blew me off and continued their story and continued telling the story. And that really made an impact on me, because now I was like, why? Well, I can't believe it. Like, I'm the same as them. I'm a ghost hunter just like they are. And they're given this information freely, but they're just rejecting it because it doesn't fall in with what they already believe.
That's awesome. And so did that just start the wheels turning, or was it like a finger snap for you that this is all messed up?
It was a wheels turning kind of thing. It was it made me think. It started that self-reflection, like looking at myself. How many times did I do this? Did I do this? That was my first question.
Yeah.
Did I do this? And then I had to admit, yes, I have. And how many times did I tell people, like they had a haunted house, or they were infested with ghosts or demons, because I believed it. And even though I got information, how many times did I ignore good information because it didn't fit in what I wanted? So, yeah, for a time I really struggled with it, and then I realized, I'm doing everything wrong.
I don't know if I've told this to my listeners before, but I think it fits in here. Many years ago, probably 26 years ago, when our first child was really young, we lived in a haunted house. And everyone knew it was haunted, but we had no money. I mean, I was working, but it wasn't enough money. And we lived in this haunted house, and the house tried to kill me. I was walking from one room to another down the main hallway, and this was a house like 8,000 square feet, just ginormous house in Joliet, Illinois. And I'm walking down the hallway, and as I get to the end of the hallway, I hear what sounds like an explosion behind me. And I just kind of scrunch down the best I can while still standing, and this cloud of white powder comes over me into the room where I was walking to, where my wife and child are. And I just stand frozen, and I turn around and I look back, and only like 2 or 3 feet from me on the floor for the next 20 feet is plaster. And so a giant part of the ceiling of the second story fell from the ceiling of the second story to the floor of the second story. And some of this plaster was 6 to 8 inches thick, because when they make all the features in the plaster, they just add more plaster and they build up to what they want to make. And my friend and I, because he owned the house, we ended up weighing this kind of casually, and it was about two tons of plaster in total. But I mean, it was a big section, but all it would have taken was, 1 50-pound piece to fall 6 feet onto my head. And so we would joke around about that. And a year after we were no longer living in the house, I got a call from someone I will dare to use the word. I've got my air quotes. Kenny can vouch for this. You can see him. I got called by a journalist who was doing a story about ghosts and had heard through the grapevine that there was someone living in the house that the ghosts almost killed. And that was me. And I explained to them that it was probably because I'm too fat and I don't walk smoothly, and I was causing vibrations, and it's a 150-year-old house. And like the older you, they wouldn't accept this as the journalist. And I was like, what kind of journalist are you if you're like discrediting everything that I say? You contacted me to hear my story, but it wasn't the story they wanted. And then they played me an audio track of some dumbasses walking around the house in the dark, running into things. And you can hear them talking in the background. And I'm waiting for, and we could talk about this, a thing called audio pareidolia.
Okay.
Where they're listening to static and themselves talking to each other, and they think they hear something. But what I hear instead is this crisp and clear voice of a little girl that goes, "Help me, please, somebody help me." And they sent me this audio file, and I said, okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. Go to this recording studio that's just a few miles from where you live. Give them a copy of this, and I bet you that they'll be able to document and prove to you that voice was overlaid on top of the recording at a later time. So it wasn't something that they misinterpreted. This was just straight up evidence production. Right. And she hung up on me and wrote the story without any input from me, but still talked about what happened to me. I was so pissed off.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we see that a lot with the media, that when they don't get the particular angle that they want, then you're just edited out.
Yeah. Now you work on all kinds of stuff. Tell me something that's good that you worked on, something entertaining, a story. Did you find a weeping Madonna, ghosts, specters? Did they slime you? What happened?
Let's see. Well, there was probably one of my most popular articles was about a film, The Blackwell Ghost.
Okay.
And it's something that pops up on Amazon Prime, and it was billed as a documentary. an authentic documentary.
As opposed to a fake documentary.
Yes.
Like Spinal Tap.
It's an authentic documentary with real, genuine evidence of ghosts.
Yeah.
And I looked into it, and after many, many, many late nights, I was able to... So basically, real short version is that
we have time.
A filmmaker is trying to document ghosts.
Yeah.
And he tries to use a video from a hotel. It's a viral video from a hotel, and it's called like Screaming Ghost at Hotel. And it's very popular. If you look for it on YouTube, you'll find it.
I'm learning that ghost hunters are really kind of like literary people.
Yes.
Screaming Ghost in Hotel. Okay.
Yes. So he mocks up this interview with the guy that created the video or captured the video, and it falls through. So his backup plan is that he got contacted from a gentleman that lives allegedly in Pennsylvania and has a haunted house and offers the filmmaker to come for the weekend and film all weekend. And it turns into almost like a paranormal activity type movie.
Yeah.
So when looking at that, the first video, the Hotel Screaming Ghost, I recognized the video and realized that the filmmaker who is doing this documentary is the one that actually created the Screaming Ghost Hotel video.
Oh.
So it's weird. Yeah, if you look at the article and see the video, the filmmaker is actually pretending to interview someone else, but he's actually interviewing himself.
Nice.
To create this documentary. And I was like, wow, that's meta. Okay, that's really cool.
I wonder if I could do that on my podcast. So, Phil, tell me about yourself. Well, hi, I'm glad to be here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There you go. Oh, I mean, with editing tools,
yeah.
You can do it so easily.
Yeah.
But then the second part is that he goes to this alleged house or this house that's allegedly in Pennsylvania and talks to this guy. And as I researched it, certain things were standing out, little details, and I look for little details. Like the filmmaker is a pilot, so he takes off from an airport and lands in an airport, allegedly flying from Kentucky to Pennsylvania. And I was curious about the airport. I could see the runway numbers.
Yeah.
And I matched them up. Both the takeoff and landing were at the same airport in Kentucky.
Oh, he didn't go far.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let's keep going. And I found out that the house that's supposed to be in Pennsylvania was actually the house of the filmmaker in Kentucky.
Oh.
It was his own house. He just hired an actor to come in and pretend to be the owner.
Yeah.
So that took a lot, and that's something that I still get emails about from literally all over the world. And I'm being a ghost hunter with using my words here.
Yeah.
Literally, all over the world, I get emails because people have seen that film and thought it was real, and then they immediately do a Google search, and my article comes up first. And I get emails thanking me, like, oh, I can't believe that this was a fabrication and he made this all up. And what's even better is that I met the gentleman, the filmmaker, about 6 months after I posted my article.
Yeah.
I was in Kentucky and I knew where the house was, so I dropped by, knocked on the door, and he didn't answer. So I actually went back to my car to get paper and write a note and leave my business card.
Yeah.
And when I went back, he was standing outside. He ran back. Like, I saw him duck behind bushes and run back in the house. I'm like, oh, all right. So he's home, but he doesn't want to talk to me. Okay, no big deal. So I opened his screen door, put my note in, and then he opened the door and looked at me and said, "Are you Kenny Biddle?" I was like, oh, crap. That can go either way, you know?
Yeah. Did he have a shotgun with a laser on it?
No, he did not.
Okay, good.
Which I did check for. That's the first thing I look for, like any weapons.
Yeah.
But I said yes, and he's like, I read your article, and how did you figure this out? And I was like, oh. Well, then we talked. We talked for about 2 hours. He invited me in the house. I got to see everywhere they filmed.
Yeah.
During the documentary. So he was a really nice guy, except he just likes making like low budget horror movies.
Right.
And according to him, Amazon was the one that made the description, calling it an authentic documentary. It wasn't him. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
what are you gonna do?
He's riding the wave because he made three sequels to it.
Oh,
and it's still, yeah.
I mean, you don't.
I think 4 sequels. I think
You don't have to get a whole lot of revenue if your costs are low enough. So if you're just walking around your house and you spend a week or two on a video.
Yeah.
Although he probably would make more money now on YouTube than on Amazon, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I have no idea. I know Amazon, I think you have to pay to get things on there. I'm not sure.
I don't know. It's wacky.
I'm sure he's making enough money because he
keeps doing it.
Continuing to make them. Yeah.
Well, what else have you looked at? Aliens, pyramids, sharpening razor blades, flying cars like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. What else?
I like that. Let's see. I've done a Bigfoot case, but that wasn't really too interesting.
And just walked around in the woods and found nothing. Is that?
Well, I've been on several Bigfoot hunts, and it's just that's it. Sitting in the woods doing nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And every little noise that pops up, it's like, oh, you hear that?
Yeah.
That's a Bigfoot call. And I'm like, what?
How do you know that?
How did we figure that out? One of the things I actually like this one. I do ghost hunting gadgets.
Okay.
So all the gadgets that they use to allegedly detect or capture ghosts.
Right.
I love to get one of them and take it apart. Actually, I test it first, then I take it apart because sometimes it doesn't always work right when I put it back together.
Yeah.
So test it first, then take it apart, see what the actual parts do and what they're manufactured for. And one of them was the Xbox Kinect.
Okay.
So it is used. It's renamed as an SLS camera, and that's what ghost hunters call it because they don't want to call it an Xbox Kinect.
Now, when you say Xbox Kinect, we're talking about the video gaming system?
Yes.
And the Xbox Kinect, I'm guessing from your description, is some kind of like camera that hooks up to the Xbox?
Yeah. It's like a motion capture camera. It allows you to stand up and be the controller instead of using a controller.
Yeah.
So like when you see the kids doing the dance games where they're up and actually dancing, this is the camera that they use.
Okay.
So ghost hunters have adopted this because when the first version came out, you were supposed to clear an area so you could walk into the area and the Kinect would recognize you as a player and put a stick figure on you.
Right.
So it's an animated stick figure that's on top of you. And once in a while, people would have random stick figures pop up. And that was usually due to like furniture being in the way, maybe a plant in the corner.
Yeah.
And it would see it because it's not supposed to be there. You're supposed to have like a 12 by 12 area clear of everything.
Yeah.
But, most of us can't do that.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. So, random stuff would pop up. And it was adopted by ghost hunters as, well,
that's the perfect thing,
It's ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to be a ghost. So they take it, they made it mobile. They put it on a handle and battery pack and then attached a tablet instead of your console. And they walk around haunted locations with it. And whenever a stick figure pops up, it's determined to be a ghost, even though the thing doesn't really move. And I did a long article about this. I went into it and realized that it's so many things like backpacks, chairs, ceiling fans. All of these things can be mistaken because it's looking at the environment. The software and hardware is looking at the environment with infrared light and
trying to find a person.
Okay, so the first version puts out a speckle pattern. So it's thousands of little dots. And it looks at the reflection of those and determines where objects are and how far away they are.
Okay.
It's not a bad system, but it's definitely flawed. It does have its flaws, which means it can make a lot of mistakes. One of the things that the software is programmed to do is to make guesses, because when you think about, especially the example of dancing games, when kids are dancing and they're doing spins, when they spin around or turn sideways, one arm and one leg is not seen by the camera.
Right.
So it has to make a guess as to where that limb is and then calculate, okay, where in space it's going to be, where it's going, predict where it's going to go, and it does a lot of work. So when you have a chair or a bookcase or something like that, that it doesn't resemble a person, but to the camera, sometimes it does, because it's only seeing part of it. So these are the mistakes that were being made, and I actually demonstrated this. I was showing ceiling fans, book bags. My son actually got in the view and then walked over and touched a dresser in his bedroom, and the stick figure went from him to the dresser and just stayed there. He walked away and it stayed on the dresser, which shows you there's more flaws with this system.
Yeah, it's tough.
So the real challenge came because when I wrote my article about it, I went into real detail. I contacted Microsoft. I talked to them. They told me there were problems with, like, if you're sitting down, then the camera can't see all of your legs and it messes it up. Right. There's a lot of problems with it. But about 6 months ago or so, there was a gentleman on YouTube posting videos where the stick figures were moving around by themselves. So it wasn't just, so let me back up a second.
Yeah.
With the first version, when the stick figure would randomly pop up, it was anchored to one spot. So it was anchored to that chair or book bag.
Right. That
it was mistaken. And it wouldn't move. The stick figure would look like a mutant thing from a 1950s sci-fi movie. Just would not move around the room. It would flail arms and legs, but it wouldn't move from that spot. So I mentioned that in my article. And when this guy on YouTube came up, he was showing videos where these stick figures, just animated stick figures by themselves, were walking around all the room. And I was challenged. There was a couple people that sent me emails saying, hey, you said it couldn't do this. Here are videos doing it. How is this being done? And to be honest, I didn't freaking know.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, let's look at this. And I was able to make a video for Skeptical Inquirer on my journey of figuring that out. So I started trying things. I was filming myself trying things, and it wasn't coming out good. There were a lot of digital artifacts around my stick figures where I was trying to hide myself because the stick figures were there, no body.
Right.
All right. So trying to get that to happen was really difficult. I finally figured out certain settings and was able to duplicate it perfectly, and even have the stick figures, again with no physical body, just the stick figures, knock things off my desk. Like knock physical objects off my desk. And it was fun as hell. I mean, it was so much fun to do this. And solving that mystery of how this was being done was just, it was mind-blowing to me. And that was one of my better videos because the feedback was, we love to see the journey.
Yeah,
I didn't know how to do it in the beginning. So we were all discovering it pretty much at the same time, except,
and that can be found where? At Kenny Biddle on YouTube? Is that?
It's skepticalinquirer.org.
Okay.
If you look under Kenny Biddle, I have a full page there, and that video is up. And it's just, it's so much fun. It was so much fun. And I love that. That's what excites me.
Yeah.
That kind of discovery, because I had no idea going in. I started that video and said, you know what? If I fail, I fail. They're going to see it. But if I nail it, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So it was a fun journey.
That is great. If someone is enjoying our talk and they want to have you come speak at any kind of conference event or on their podcast or YouTube channel, how do they reach you?
You can reach me. You can actually call the Center for Inquiry. The phone number, I'd have to.
They can Google it.
Phone number. Okay. Yeah, Google it and call, and I'm on the directory there. You can also reach me by email at kbiddle@centerforinquiry.org. And you can find me on Facebook. I have my private page, Kenny Biddle, or I have a vlog page called I Am Kenny Biddle. And that's the best way to get to me, really, because I'm always on social media sharing things and what I find. So
excellent. And I know you have other things on your schedule today, so thank you so much for sparing some time for me and my listeners, and I greatly appreciate it. And Kenny, thank you for being on the Phil Ferguson Show.
You are welcome, sir.
A lot of people come up here and they thank Jesus for this award. I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus. He didn't help me a bit. If it was up to him, Caesar Milan would be up here with that damn dog. So all I can say is, suck it, Jesus, this award is my God now!
You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show.
Once again, thank you for listening to The Phil Ferguson Show. I greatly appreciate it. If you like the show, you can go leave a 5-star review somewhere or share it with a friend. I'd be happy to have you do that. Thank you again, Kenny Biddle, for coming and telling us all about ghosts. One other thing I do want to tell you about, remind you, and I'll talk about this a couple of more times in the next few months, but right here in Central Florida, really close to the Orlando airport, which is often very, very low cost to fly into because of the traffic and Disney and all the fun things here. But there's the annual Free Flow Conference, Free Florida, Free Thinkers, Florida, something like that. It's in Orlando. You can go to the website freeflow.org and get all of the details that are available now. You can also register. Registration has opened, and this is for the weekend of March 10th through the 12th. Of course, I will be there. It's actually probably 20 miles from me here in Central Florida, so I will be happy to be there. Our good friend of the show, Andrew Seidel, will be there. Of course, we have Seth Andrews, Lucian Greaves, I know Lucian, sorry. Liz Cavell, and she is a staff attorney at the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Amy Monsky will be there, good friend of mine. No Illusions, and many, many more. So these are just, I'm just rattling off a few names I see here, but it's March 10th through 12th. Now, if you're asking me, I recommend that you come a couple of days early or stay a couple of days extra and see some of the cool shit that's in the Orlando area. Of course, there's the obvious: Disney World, Universal Studio, Epcot, but there's a lot of things to do and or see in the area. So do a little research, get a little fun. That the hotel, if you can get in soon enough, is about $150 a night. Not bad. And I've been told that there's free parking if you're staying at the hotel. However, if you use the valet, it's $21. So I'll find out if I get to use the parking for free without a hotel room, because I live here, so I'm probably not going to get a hotel room. But anyway, that's Free Flow Convention. Again, you can find out more at freeflow.org, March 10th through 12th of 2023. Come on down. The pool is nice. It's going to be great weather. You come down and visit everybody and maybe see a couple of hundred of your closest friends. That wraps up the show for today. And as more conferences get scheduled for 23, I'll talk about them. If you're putting one on and like to be on the show to talk about it, send me an email, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com. Until then, ciao.
there, it's the kids in magic underwear. Latter-day pimps, motherfucker. Let me tell you a story about my man Joe Smith. He's the founder of our posse that you just can't fuck with. Wrote a little book called The Bible Part 2. Book of Mormon, bitch, preached by me and my crew. Mormon for JJ, that's my kryptonite. Spread the word all day, spreading pussy all night. CT all blinked out, ring so sick. Choose the right, got it tatted on my dick. Rolling our bikes in your neighborhood. Spit religion, jockin' bitches, yo, we're up to no good. Knock, knock. Who's there? It's the kids in magic underwear. Knock, knock. Who's there? It's the kids in magic underwear. Knock, knock. Welcome, brother. It's the kids in magic underwear. Knock, knock. Good afternoon. It's the kids in magic motherfucking underwear. Break these motherfuckers off, Elder Gooch. Okay, I'm gonna try my best. Christ rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Tithing to the church, y'all. Call me Elder Nasty, cause it's written on my badge. Gotta wait for my wedding night to penetrate the bed. I'm a virgin like a daiquiri. I'll charm you with my flattery. I'll give you my last name, and you'll be my baby factory. Wife 1, wife 2, wife 3, wife 4. My ass is on a mission to wed a couple more. Streets of Utah's where I got my education. Hardest missionary in the LDS nation. Scripture on my hip like a load of Mac 10. Peeling caps back with the fiction within. We're the leaders of the pack, and you know that for a fact. Gonna run America, cause Romney's got my back. Knock, knock. Who's there? It's the kids in magic underwear. Knock, knock. Who's there? It's the kids in magic underwear. Knock, knock. Who is it? It's the kids in magic underwear. Knock, knock. Oh, for Pete's sake. It's the kids in magic motherfucking underwear. Big ups to the Angel Moroni. I can't wait to get our own planet. Let's go spread the word. I'll get our bike helmets. Peace, we're out of here.